Following on from the overview video I did about this kayak, I'm now going to start the rigging process by fitting an anchor trolley. Now I'm right-handed, therefore I like the anchor trolley to be on the right hand side of the kayak. Now this is going to be a no drill anchor trolley, and I'm able to do that because of the fitments that come with this kayak. Now those fitments are not actually on the kayak to fit an anchor trolley, but can be used for the anchor trolley. And what those fitments are, if you can see there running along the side of the kayak from the bow to about the middle of the kayak, and also at the stern, and it's the same both sides, you've got this grab line or safety line. And what's being used to fit that safety line are these fitments here. And they've got a couple of holes, and the bottom hole is used to run the safety line, the grab line. But there's also got a spare hole at the top there. And the fitments are close enough to the bow and the stern for me to use them to fit the anchor trolley. So really useful. And the bits and pieces that I'm going to use to fit the anchor trolley are, I've got a couple of 50mm 5cm stainless steel carbine hooks, a couple of 60mm 6cm stainless steel carbine hooks, 2 stainless steel pulleys, an O-ring, a zigzag cleat, a couple of T-bolts, and more than twice the length of the kayak of 4mm non-stretched marine cord. So those are the bits and pieces I need, and the use of those bits and pieces will become apparent when I actually start fitting the anchor trolley. Now usually when you fit an anchor trolley to a kayak, if you don't have existing fitments close enough to the bow and the stern to use for the fitting, you have to fit fitments yourself. And when I say close enough to the bow or the stern, you don't want those fitments too far away from the bow or the stern. Otherwise you might find that you're anchoring slightly sideways on. And normally what happens is you fit a pad eye, and of course that means drilling into the kayak. Now drilling into a kayak is not a problem, and I've had to do a lot of drilling on my Prowler Big Game to fit all the accessories I needed for my fishing. So as long as you do it properly, and of course the obvious thing is never below the waterline, as long as you do it properly and use plenty of marine sealant, it's not a problem. But if you don't need to drill, then don't. And as I said earlier, because I've got these existing fitments that are close enough to the bow or the stern, I can use them. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my smaller stainless steel carbine hook, the 5cm, and that is just the right size to be able to go through the hole of that fitment, like that. Now usually what you would then do is actually fit your stainless steel pulley to that to run the cord through. But the carbine hook I actually used that would go through the hole here, small enough to go through the hole, is too small to actually fit this stainless steel pulley on. It doesn't sit properly, and that's the reason why I'm going to use a slightly larger carbine hook, the 6cm, and then hook that on that. And then that, of course, is then big enough for me to then just clip the stainless steel pulley on. The alternative would be to use a piece of bungee cord around here and then actually tie the stainless steel pulley to the bungee cord. And that's another option that you could use, but I quite using the stainless steel carbine hooks. So basically, that's the bow done. So what I've got to do now is do exactly the same at the stern, and then I'll be ready to actually run the cord through the pulleys and finish it off by fitting the O-ring and then the zigzag cleat. Now I've got my pulleys fitted to both the bow and the stern, I'm ready to run the cord through the pulley. So starting at the bow here, doesn't really matter whether you start at the bow or the stern. I'm just going to pop the cord up through the pulley. And then what I'm also going to use these existing fitments for, that have got the spare holes at the top, is actually as a guide for the cord. I'm not going to use all of them. If I thread the cord through all of them, then the cord, there will be a bit too much restriction when I want to actually use the anchor trolley. So I'm just going to use some of them, and that's going to be useful to actually guide this cord nicely along the side of the kayak. So I'm just going to use the first one nearest to the pulley, miss the next one, run it through the one that's just in front of my seat, and then run it through the one slightly behind my seat, miss the next one, and then run it through the one that's closest to the pulley at the stern, and then come down through the pulley at the stern, and then bring the cord to just beside my seat, and now I'm ready to tie off one side of the O-ring. Well, I've got one end of the O-ring tied off now, and the knot I've used is a uni knot. But before I tie the other end off, I just want to check the tension that I need to tie the knot. And what I mean by tension is I don't want it too loose where it sits down like that, floppy down like that, or too tight where it starts riding up too high on the kayak. I want it to naturally sit just below or just level with the top line there. And so now I know the tension that I need to tie the knot off. I'm going to tie the other end, and once again I'm going to use a uni knot. Well, I've got the other end of the O-ring tied off now with another uni knot, and as you can see there, it sits quite nicely, naturally sits nicely in the position I wanted. I've cut the tag ends down, but what I will do as a finishing touch is just burn the end of these tag ends here to make sure they don't fray. Right, so the next step is we've got to fit the zigzag cleat. Now, when I fitted my anchor trolley to my Prowler Big Game and it came to fit in the zigzag cleat, I had to drill into the kayak to do that and fit it with stainless steel screws, washers and nuts. But because I've got this track system on this kayak, I don't need to do that, and I can use these T-bolts and then just slide the T-bolts onto the track to the position I want and then just screw them down. And the other great thing is, unlike when it's a permanent fixing, I can adjust the position if I find where I initially put it when I'm out on the water that it's not quite right. I can position it to a different position until it's suitable. So that's what we're going to do. Just going to slide these T-bolts onto the track and then screw it down. I'm going to start by positioning it here as close as I can to my seat, which is probably going to be the ideal position. But as I said, later on, if I find that I need to move it, I can just move it. But we're going to put it, for the moment, we're just going to pop it there. And all I need to tighten these up is just a key, which I think they call an Allen key, I think. And there you go, as simple as that. That's the zigzag cleat. And for those of you that don't know why you need a zigzag cleat, what it is, it's when you're, particularly when you're fishing at anchor, you need to secure the anchor trolley so that it can't move, and you do that by one of the zigzag cleats. So once you've got your anchor deployed, you then just run the cord around the zigzag cleat like that, and then of course it's locked in position, and it can't accidentally move. Well, that's the anchor trolley done. And as you can see there, now I've got a bit of tension on this cord here, that the stainless steel pulley and the carbine hooks are sitting nicely on the side of the kayak, as is the cord. and it's been really useful to have these existing fitments here to be able to, one, to be able to fit the stainless steel pulley to the bow and the stern of the kayak rather than having to maybe fit pad eyes to be able to do that, but also to use some of these fitments as a guide for the top line of the anchor trolley. Got the zigzag cleat fitted there to the track, and because of the track system, that's been easy to fit that using T-bolts. And the O-ring is naturally sitting nicely on the side of the kayak. In other words, it's not rising up too high like that, or it's not too floppy. Just getting the right tension, so that sits nicely by the side of your seat. So that's great to have that done. But for those of you that are new to kayak fishing, and particularly maybe anchoring a kayak at sea, the reason that you need the pulley system is that, unlike a boat, when you're out at sea and you need to deploy an anchor, you can't get up, you can't walk to the bow of the boat to deploy the anchor. So hence you need the pulley system. So the idea is that when you're ready to deploy your anchor, you click the anchor onto the O-ring here, and then using the pulley system from your seat, you maneuver it to the stern, or if it's necessary, to anchor it from the bow, and it's very easy to do that. But of course, an anchor trolley is not only used for anchoring, it's also used, and I use an anchor trolley an awful lot, for using a drift chute when I'm drift fishing, and deploy a drift chute, otherwise known as a drogue, to slow me down. And for this kayak, that's actually what I mostly use this anchor trolley for. Right, so what we're going to do in the next video on fitting out this kayak is to look at fitting various different types of rod holders for different types of fishing that I'm going to be doing to these track systems. So once again, I hope you found that useful, and many thanks for watching.